This is a short presentation to discuss reliability and validity, in particular relating to assessment items. As an analogy to this, we're going to consider 4 targets like the ones we'd use in archery, and the centre represents a true value of what we're trying to measure with our assessment items. So it's a true measure of the skill of the student, and our assessment items may or may not accurately reflect. In the ideal world, our measurements of students' ability with our assessment items would be all in the same place. There would be an exact true measure of what the student's ability is. If that was to occur in the archery target analogy that we're using, all of the targets, all of the crosses representing arrows going into the center of the target represent a very reliable measurement. They're all very closely bunched together. Every time you run the test, it gives you the same answer. And because they're all at the center, which is where our true measure of our student is, then we can say that our measurements are valid. If all of our measurements were still to occur very nicely bunched together, then they're still reliable. But if they occur away from the center, which is where we're trying to measure, then we would say that our measurements are actually invalid. They're measuring something different than what we actually want them to measure. What can occur is that our measurements are much more spread out. Then that means that our measurement is not as reliable as we'd like it to be and could be considered to be unreliable. But if you average all of those things out and they turn out to be at the center, then we can say that our measurements are still valid, they're just unreliable. Any given measurement is not necessarily going to give you a true reflection of the student's ability, but together they may well do. Finally, we get the situation where perhaps all of our measurements are spread out and therefore they are unreliable. And they're also, when you average them all out, they actually come out to some point which is not near the center. In this case, they're more off to one side. That means that our measurements are actually invalid and unreliable. Not a great result for our assessment items. So, if we are going to be looking at measuring students' ability, we're looking for items that together, collectively, are reliable and valid.